What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Knives of the Round Table. My name is Marco, and today we're going to be talking about the Winkler Knives Highland Hunter. So my appreciation of Winkler knives continues, but the only thing that I think that a Winkler should do is just have a photo of all of his models from smallest to largest, because there are so many models in his lineup that sometimes it's hard to really figure out, where each knife fits, and some of them have a little bit different blade shapes. They've got, some, thumb rest up here, but in general, they come in kind of two type of kind of blade shapes, and sometimes it's hard to figure out exactly where each of these lands. So I wish at some point Monkey Edge had like a little diagram for hinder knives, right, where they would show like the smallest, like the half track, and then the 3-inch XM18, and then the XM18, and the XM24, and you could tell all of the sizes, right? So I wish they would do something like that for Winkler knives. It would make it much more clear, kind of where each knife lands in the lineup. So this is the Highland Hunter, and I'm going to give you a tour of the knife here, and I'll tell you why I ended up kind of deciding to try this knife out. So what you're looking at here is about a little over, 4 3/4 inches, right from the end of the wood here. You're looking at probably about 4.5 inches of sharpened blade length, and this is 80 CRB2. So for those of you who have seen some of the other Winkler knives videos, this is going to be old news, but 80 CRB2 is not my favorite steel, okay? In the hands of most knife makers, it doesn't yield a particularly good edge, in my opinion. But Winkler does things a little bit different. What he does is he does his heat treatment on the ground piece of steel. In other words, he grinds the primary bevel, okay, and he then does his heat treatment. Most knife makers will do the heat treatment first and then grind the primary bevel, because what happens is a thinner stock of steel is more likely to warp. So, but what Winkler says is that there are some properties that you gain in the heat treatment that you lose when you grind the blade. And there must be something to his claims, because by God, when I sharpen 80 CRB2 by Winkler knives, it feels a lot harder than a lot of steels, like 3V or other stuff that I've sharpened. So there's a little bit magic that he does. So I have tried a lot of his knives, like the Jaeger, that's smaller, the Winkler General, which is one of my favorite knives in my collection. I've tried the Field knife, which is very similar to this knife, just in a much larger package. This is a smaller knife, and I think the Field knife, it's an excellent knife. It has all of the qualities that you want from a Winkler knife, but it's a little bit too big for my taste. It's not thick enough that it's an effective, chopper or batoner, and it's a little bit too unwieldy for a lot of tasks. But this is a much more manageable size, so I decided to give this one a shot, and I really don't regret doing that. But let me give you some size comparisons so you kind of know what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna show you here. This is against the SE5 right there, and this is against the SE3, okay? So what I've always stated is that generally, when I'm in camp, right, or when I go hiking or whatever, I have one knife that is generally about this size on my belt. The Winkler General sometimes is that knife, the Christopher Niala, those are kind of my favorites. The Bark River North Country EDC is also a kind of a candidate for that. And this one is just a little bit bigger than what I get like in the SE3 or this kind of size of blade, but it's not it's not ridiculously so. So it ended up being a fairly comfortable knife to kind of have on my belt. It's not a ridiculously thick blade stock. Like the SE5 is just insane, right? You can see, but against the SE3, you can see it's probably in the same neighborhood of blade stock. So this became, just a knife that is just a tad bit more capable than this without being just overly heavy or overly cumbersome to handle. It kind of hit a fairly nice sweet spot that I was kind of surprised, because I'm generally more I generally prefer to carry this size. So, but for those of you who have never had a fixed blade and are thinking of making this kind of your first one, let me give you some size comparisons against the folder. That's your pair 2 and that's your pair 3. So in fixed blades, the kind of smallest that I would say you should probably aim for is kind of like an SE3, which is kind of what you get in a pair 2, right, when it's deployed like that. So generally a 4-inch blade is kind of the minimum. This one is a 4.5-inch sharpened blade, 4 3/4. So it's not far from that number, and that's why I think it kind of hit a surprisingly nice sweet spot for me. It really did. So let's get into the into the review. And the first thing that I want to say is ergonomics, and Winkler knives have really nice ergonomics. They have fairly comfortable handles. They're contoured in this direction. The way the scale or the handle just flares out in this direction means that you don't feel like, even though it's smooth, you never feel like the knife is getting away from you. You feel fairly locked into the knife. They've got this very unique Winkler jimping, which is kind of lines and then like circular divots on both sides. It's fairly aggressive and it's a little bit painful. It's very effective, but in case you want to do a saber grind. But because it's more of a neutral handle, all positions, except reverse draw cuts, that this is fairly uncomfortable. This right here is very comfortable, and just a hammer grip, saber grip, all of those are very comfortable. They're not at the level of they're not quite at a Bark River level, and they're very far. I recently did the review, what you call it, it'll come to me, but I recently did a review and the knife, and it just the Giant Mouse GMF4, and the ergonomics of the knife are just the best that I've ever seen. This one is very good. I would say that it's a strength of the knife. It's certainly very good. It feels nice in the hand. It feels comfortable. It's just not as contoured. You don't have any finger grooves. You don't have any palm swell. Those kinds of things, which makes it better for a lot of different hand positions. But in the primary positions, it just doesn't excel, right? It's just very, very good. So I would say very good ergonomics, not excellent like a Bark River or certainly not like the Giant Mouse GMF4. That was just amazing. Cutting. So a knife like this is more of the I use it for food preparation, for carving, carving notches, that kind of stuff in wood, for sharpening steaks, sharpening sticks, or even creating like something like kindling, stuff like that. The blade is not long enough nor thick enough to chop with or to baton with. It just doesn't split wood very well. It's very light, it's very nimble, but you can't. There's just not enough mass to really do any serious chopping with it. So like I said, this is more of a camp knife, right? Cutting rope, cutting paracord, like I said, food preparation, all of those things, and I think it is excellent at that specific kind of group of tasks. So kind of like the light duty task of a camp. I think that's excellent for this knife. Like I've always said, I generally have a knife like this that is on my belt, or even a little bit smaller, like the SE3, and I have something like a heavy duty chopper and batoner at camp, that just kind of stays there, in case, for wood processing and those kinds of things. But I think for those finer tasks, for those smaller duty tasks, especially this heat treatment is gonna, this edge is gonna last forever. I mean, this is the edge after kind of a week of camp, and it is still really sharp. I would highly recommend. I think it's, like I said, it feels like an extension of your hand. It feels really light, really nimble. You don't feel like it's heavy. It's fairly thin blade stock, so definitely kind of a lighter duty fixed blade, but an outstanding size. I think you will enjoy it. Well, generally here I talk about action in my other videos, but I generally want to talk about the sheath. And for those of you who have seen more than one Winkler knife video, that I rave about the sheath. I think these sheaths are the best in the world. I really do. I'm gonna give you kind of an overview of it. It has a kind of like felt inside. No, it's suede. It's like suede in here, and then there's a layer of Kydex. Okay, and I don't know if you can see it, but so there's a layer of suede, and then there's Kydex, and then there's leather on the outside. And what that does is you still get all of the kind of retention that you get from Kydex, right? But you don't have that plasticky click that you get from Kydex. This, all of that you don't get, right? And especially you don't get if you get like sand in your Kydex or stuff like that. Here, it's much better. You get some of the classical look of the leather, which I think looks just amazing and incredible. You get a soft, feel when the Kydex goes in and out, and you get all the retention from the Kydex, and you still get kind of like this plate that you can rotate, and you can use, just vertical carry, or kind of turn it around and do scout carry. These sheets, I've always said, Winkler knives are worth trying out just for the sheath. I've always said, if I could have all of my fixed blades have a Winkler sheath, I would do it in a second. Somebody in my comment section before said that his wife is actually the one who does these sheets. I haven't confirmed that for sure, but if it is, boy, she's a master at her craft, not and just as much as he is a master of his. So definitely the best sheets out there, in my opinion. There's no better sheath than a Winkler knife sheath. So we've talked about ergonomics, we've talked cutting, fit and finish. Like I said, I think that so Winkler is a master bladesmith. He was hired to do all of the blades for The Last of the Mohicans. I think that's kind of where he kind of made his jump. He's been doing knives for a long time. His fit and finish is outstanding. His looks are more traditional, as you can see here. Most of the times it's kind of a walnut or dark maple handle. You've got the steel is always coated. I haven't seen any Winkler blades with just a satin blade. The fit and finish is excellent. They feel so good in the hand, very much in the neighborhood of a Bark River knife, maybe a little bit better if that's even a thing. I think they're outstanding knives, but I think that the excellence comes really from the blade and the way he treats his blades. I've always said if he's able to achieve this level of mastery or this level of performance with 80 CRV2, oh man, I wish that he did, kind of like do the same thing, but kind of with crew wear, right? Where it might be just insane what he'd be able to achieve. I wish, I've corresponded with Dan Winkler, at least on one occasion. But I don't have, I have zero influence. But if he ever watches one of these videos, I hope that he gives it a shot. And if he does, I hope that he gives me a chance to try it out. So fit and finish are excellent. Like I said, in the knife is outstanding. The sheath is just incredible. I think if I had my airing of grievances, I think the only thing that I would say is I don't like when they don't do a sharpening choil. I do like to sharpen my knives, and it makes it very hard, especially in a coated blade, to get down into this corner. I mean, you can even see that he has a hard time getting into that corner. I wish that he did just the tiniest bit of choil. I think that would make this knife excellent. I'm gonna be selling a couple of my Winkler knives just because I'm starting to kind of hone in on my favorites. So I'm gonna keep the General. I'm gonna keep the Highland Hunter, but I'm gonna sell the Jaeger and the field knife, which is kind of so if the General is here, and so the General, and then the Jaeger, and then the Highland Hunter, and then the field knife in size. So I'm gonna keep, let's say, 1 and 3. I'm gonna sell 2 and 4, just because I'm honing in on kind of the size that I enjoy. So guys, the awesomeness of Dan Winkler knives continues. So if you want to give them a shot, they are pricey, and it took a long time for me to swallow the pill of the price versus 80 CRV2. It kind of, oh man, I resisted for a long time. And then I pulled the trigger, and now I've bought probably 5 or 6 of his knives. They're just that good. So I would highly recommend them, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you did, and only if I earned it, then like and subscribe. That way you get more of this stuff. And until I see you at the next one, take care.